This is going to be a brief lecture on college enrollment and some of the characteristics that we're going to be looking at. A lot of the material you're going to get this week is going to be from the book and from the enrollment documents that you're going to be reviewing. So the objectives today is just going to review enrollment trends of college students very briefly, as well as to review some characteristics or identities of college students. So the overall enrollment for undergraduate students has been increasing steadily for the past 30 years. We have seen a large increase in the private for-profit sector, but there is still a larger number of students enrolled in nonprofit public institutions, despite the rate for increase being larger in the private for-profit sector. We have seen increased diversity in terms of enrollment. We've seen different ethnicities and races becoming more engaged in colleges and universities. The enrollment numbers have gone up, particularly for African Americans and other students. The same is true for religion. We are starting to see more students with different religious beliefs and values. Students with different sexual orientations are starting to feel more comfortable identifying and being open about who they are from a sexual standpoint. And the same is true for sex. Now I say sex, not gender, because this is how it's biologically classified, or is classified biologically. And we have seen the enrollment of men decrease with the enrollment of women increase. And this has paralleled the same type of trend in the United States Census. We've seen more women in the United States and less men. So men, there's starting to be some concerns in terms of men and their enrollment in undergraduate and their education and the outcomes for them. We're also seeing a globalization of higher education as institutions go global by going online. They're starting to see more students enrolling in these online classes. And then the same is true for international students, although international students make up about 10% of graduate students. And it's a very small percentage actually make up undergraduate students. In terms of some other enrollment characteristics, we can have low-income students, first-generation, veteran, mental health. Now income is very interesting because it's a bifurcated system, so there's usually two different types. There's either the low income or the high income. The middle class are kind of split there in between. And our focus is really going to be on the low-income student. And more often than not, the low-income student is generally also a first-generation student. So low-income student can be a student that generally has to take out a number of student loans parents can't afford to help them out. And there's various definitions of what exactly a low-income student is. And again, it's subjective and depending on the institution without national standards. First generation is typically a student who neither parent has attended or received a post-secondary degree. There's stricter versions of that and there's looser versions of that, but for our purposes, first generation will just be a student whose parents do not have a post-secondary degree. Now, low-income and first-generation students, as we're going to see later on in the semester, and I don't want to get too much into this, have very unique experiences that other students tend not to. They may need to work to help support themselves. They are less inclined to be happy on campus. They're less engaged because either they're working or they want to go home. Veteran students kind of ebbs and flows, and it generally happens with wars and when their deployments are called. And we'll see more about this when we get into veteran students. But right now, the enrollment of veteran students is increasing. And as we start to see veteran students, we're starting to see new institutions and new organizations as well as support services developing for veteran students. Now, in terms of mental health and student disabilities, we have seen a large influx and increased enrollment in students with mental health. And this could be a double-edged sword, because is it that these students are actually coming in with mental health concerns, or is there a greater spotlight onto it based on current societal expectations and norms? And then on the flip side, we're becoming better in medicine and we're diagnosing more and more things, so that would also increase the level of mental health. So mental health and student disabilities are also increasing, and we can see this a lot in counseling services and students just being overwhelmed. Now, Generation on a Tightrope really focuses on a lot of these things here. And we're starting to see students are more concerned with civic engagement and community service. They're more open about spirituality and their spiritual sense, a little less than religion, so to speak. Same as they're more involved with politics, particularly liberal politics. And this kind of goes along with the current movement in society for equality um, and a need for increased diversity. So the diversity, their attitudes towards diversity and wanting diversity um, is a big part of their political engagement. And this current generation of college students is the most diverse, politically liberal generation that we've ever seen, and we're starting to see a lot of trends with that. So this concludes this lecture video. I hope you enjoy the reading, and I look forward to seeing some of the first presentations.